Construction champions, it's your host, Ron Nussbaum, and we're here for another amazing episode of Construction Champions Podcast. Where twice a week we are burning the house down, and that house is your business, your personal relationships, your relationships with your employees, your relationship with yourself, everything that we look in the mirror and we talk about that needs to be burnt down so we can go be the best version of us and we can create a championship construction industry. Like that's what it's about. It's about just changing the mindset around construction because this is the best industry that I have found, and I'm just excited about it. As always, we have an amazing guest because, like I say, you guys don't show up for Ron Nussbaum. Even though I might be exciting and bring the fire on the intro, you guys show up to hear what our guests have to say and the impact that it can have on your business. And today is no different. Michael, it is fantastic to have you here with us today.
Man, Ron, super glad to be here, my friend. It's best versions of ourselves, right? Let's go see what we can talk about. I'm ready.
Absolutely. Veteran. I always love having veterans on here. So why don't you tell all the champions out there a little bit about yourself?
Yeah, so grew up in the South on a farm. I don't think my parents ever used the word college in a sentence with me. So 17 years old, off to Uncle Sam's green machine I go. And that was a great piece of my life. And you and I talked about that before we got started, that we go off, we serve our country for a while, and then we come back to the real world. And my dad had been an electrician. So a lot of times we find our way into this industry partially because of what our families did. And in my case, I spoke at least a little bit of construction, but I also was fortunate I had a little bit of software woven into my history. So I speak construction, I speak technology relatively well. And I think that's kind of what shaped my career over the 30 plus years. Gosh, I'm old since then. So yeah, it's right now we've got a construction company in New York City. I think we'll probably have 130 people in the field this summer. And 2.5 years ago, we spun a software company out of that because we had a problem and we built some things to solve that problem inside of our own company. And it turned out other people had the same problem. I know that's something you can relate to. And here we go, gosh, 2.5 years now. I can't believe we've been doing this for that long. So, wow, running a software company too. Who would have thought it?
Yeah, go figure that a construction company spins up some software and other people in the construction industry have that problem. Like,
Yeah.
it's not rocket science. People make it seem like it is, but it's really not. So,
What's funny is I've shared this with some people. We actually tried to go to the market and buy a solution for the problem we were having. It's not like we didn't figure Silicon Valley. Well, certainly some smart people out there must have solved this already. It's like everybody has the same issue. In our case, it's how do we keep our guys motivated in the field, our workers. And somebody's already solved this, right? There's 11 million people across construction and home services, all being paid by the hour. Somebody's got some tools out here to help manage this. Nope, nothing, nothing out there. So alas, a spreadsheet turned into a Google sheet, turned into a Zoho thing, turned into a piece of software.
I love it, man. I love it. I'm super excited to dive into our conversation here today. So I'm going to kick it right off by asking the $1,000,000 question. And that is, what makes a construction champion? Hey, construction champions. It's your host, Ron Nussbaum here. And I want to talk to you about how you can automate all of your marketing. We've had so many people on here talk about getting the systems in place. Well, we have partnered with Build 12 and Construction Champions podcast. Les O'Hara, the founder, what really excites me is his 30 years in the industry. And now he's built a system to be able to nurture your leads and continue to utilize that. I personally use the system myself. Build 12 is absolutely amazing.
I am now a passionate believer in how much culture drives success. It is arguably, in fact, I would almost say it's past an argument that culture is the most defining element of your success. It's been studied pretty extensively, and the bifurcation between companies with great culture and those without it is so dramatic financially, is the question why we even worry about anything else. It crushes all the other single metrics you might look at that define how a company will perform financially. I'm talking about net revenue growth, profit in the bank, all the trends that you look for. What do I want from the business? How do I grow my business and win? Have a great culture. And so we have really, and I think with the software, dove deep into the idea of what is a great company culture? What does that even mean? What are the pillars of it that define, what are the foundations to how I do it? What does it look like in real life? How do I tell the difference between what is and isn't in practice? So that's really been a passion of ours for a while now. And I think it is something our industry needs a great deal more focus on.
Yeah, I completely agree and have been down that road where making the decision that we were going to build a culture and what that was going to be built around and what resonated with us as a company, it completely changed everything. It completely changed the trajectory. It changed our hiring practice. It changes everything around your business. And it's something that gets talked about, but in construction, it's something that we just kind of jump over and we're like, because like my beef a lot of times with the construction industry is we just say, oh, construction's different. And that's BS. Construction's just like every other business.
Yep.
We just need to learn to treat it that way. And exactly what you're talking about is culture in a construction business can change the outcome of everything. And it will
Yeah.
change it as long as you commit to it.
Yeah. I think a lot of people don't understand even what that means. Like company culture, like we say that, and I think you get a blank look sometimes from the other side of the table. Like they kind of know, they can nod to it, they can spell it. But what is company culture? It's your company's personality. And if you think about it, if I had to guess in your construction company and you're at BuilderComs, my guess is that culture reflects your personal personality, right? Because if it doesn't, if you're trying to be something you're not, and it's one of the first things we believe is a pillar of great culture, it has to be authentic to who you are. Regardless of what you as a leader in your company decide you want to do in terms of company culture, you have to make it real to you. I'll give you an example. If you are a work first at all cost win kind of person, and then you try and say, well, we're going to have a family first culture, you're going to have a hard time implementing that because Bob is going to say, well, I need to get to my kid's softball game, but the job's not done yet. And your mindset is, well, we always get the job done first. Okay, I'm not saying one is right and one's wrong, but you need to know who you are and be authentic.
Mm.
So you start from that foundational element of who are you as a person, as a leader, and lead your company into a path of this is the culture we're going to have because it'll be genuine. And if it's genuine, people can believe in it. They'll learn to trust in it. They know what to expect, and you can grow from there.
That literally is, I think, the best explanation I've ever heard of culture and what it is. Like it
Yeah.
is. It's the personality of your business. And where does that come from? The leader. But too
Yeah.
often we go out and like we're gonna make this holistic company culture. Like this is what people want. But what people really want is something real and true that they can trust, that there is no necessarily gray areas. And if you just kind of create something that you think's holistic and what everybody wants, what you do is you create a lot of gray areas where people don't even know what to expect because it
Sure.
doesn't even personally align with you.
It's got to be real. And I think you follow on to that with a piece that often finds its way into culture, which is that you need to put your people first. And now that's an easy thing to say, but what does that actually mean? If you are going to put your people first, it means you understand in deeply that your people define your success, not your commitment to your customer, for example. Right? It's a great bifurcation in the approach to culture. Your customer, everybody say, well, we're customer centric. Really? Well, you should probably be people centric because unless you are a one man shop doing all the work yourself and dealing with all the customers personally. It's actually your people who take care of the service. The service takes care of your customer takes care of your profit. And
Mm.
so this that comes from a guy named Tom Peters, a very famous business consultant guy, wrote some great books. But his thesis was you have to take care of your people because they're actually the ones doing everything. They're the ones actually executing out in the field, delivering that product to your customer, that service to your customer. So leaning into your people is the center of how you should think about everything. And you need to look at all of your tools that you use to run your business. Say, how much of this is anchored on how I help my people to win in what they're doing to deliver on my service to my customers so they'll pay me.
No, I mean, that right there is absolutely so true because anytime you roll something out, the impact is on the people that are doing the job. And their first thought is, how does this negatively affect me? When it's our job as leaders is to help educate them on how this positively affects them and positively affects the homeowner at the end of the day, because we've all done it. We've all rolled systems out in some process where on paper and in our heads, this looks fantastic. Everybody will understand it, but we don't bridge the gap for people to understand it. And
Yeah.
all it becomes is one more thing they have to do.
So
And
we take this, we start communicating this, right? We got this idea, we're going to communicate this out. I think it was George Bernard Shaw said that, the biggest problem with communication is the illusion that it's taking place. And there's this, we just could we probably right. You tell everybody we got to wear a blue shirt tomorrow, and 40% of the people show up in red. It's like, what am I doing wrong? Why am I not communicating well? And so we have these initiatives about who we want to be. We have this culture we're trying to build. Then we try and communicate it. And a lot of times we think that that's, well, I sent an email or I posted or I yelled at Bob and told him, oh, come on, this is not how people absorb information. This is not how human beings internalize information that you may think it's important, but they don't really hear it all the time. So developing great communication pathways, and that means bi-directional communication. I mean, do you hear what they're saying? It's really, really, really hard for them to hear what you're saying if they never think that you hear what they're saying.
mm,
So it's just, you got to open up the pathways both directions if you really want to develop a strong company culture.
I love it. And then I want to dive into how do you do that? And because I mean, you're the
Yeah.
man for this. So like how's the guy that's listening that feels like he has lost complete control of his culture or is wanting to start to try to figure out how to figure that out? Where do they start?
So start with, again, I'll go back to the first element, which is that authentic thing. So when you write down who you want to be, and this is worth a piece of paper and a pencil to figure out who is it that we are as a company, what is our company culture? You start writing this stuff down. It doesn't have to be articulate yet. It's just thoughts, but they need to be who you are. So you understand this is who I am as a leader, as kind of company I want to build. And maybe it's, you said earlier, the best version of yourself. Good, strong, kudos. So if you say, you know what, I know I'm a little authoritarian, but I want to be more collaborative. All right, then you lean into that, but you got to own some of that too. So start defining, writing down who you want to be.
Mm,
Um, Talk to your employees. You got to bring them in the office and have human conversations with them. And I mean, like, how's the dog? I heard he had surgery last week. I mean, stupid human trick stuff, right? We need to actually connect with the people we work with and hear what they have to say about themselves as people, not just as a laborer, not just as a carpenter, not just as a painter or an electrician, but as a person. Get to know them, because it's that way there's a loop forming where they believe that you begin to care about them so they can begin to care about you and your business.
mm.
Why should they care about your customers if they don't think you care about them? So start that conversation going and get to know them a little bit. And there's a process, you remember from the military, we kind of maintain a professional, line between, your leadership and the people that you lead. And that role you can still hold that down, but it doesn't mean you don't care. It doesn't mean you don't put your people first. So get that process moving. what we did, and I'll, kind of shameless pitch for what we built here at Protiv is we found closing that gap helped when the crews made more money, when we made more money automatically.
Mm-hmm.
And one of the things we learned about incentives, there's I think this guy, his name's I think it's Friedman. He's a professor up at Rochester in economics. He basically said all of economics is summarized by four words, which is people respond to incentives. Like that's you just got a PhD in economics of those four words. So it is what drives human behavior. So one of the things that we believe is how do we incentivizing? My dad had a method of incentivization. I don't know about yours, but he had a very specific way of incentivizing my brothers not to do work. It was the fear of having to do more work if we didn't get that work done. And and certainly we have our share of authoritarian dictatorial leadership and communication in our industry. What is incentivizing our workers internally, that intrinsic motivation that they might have to go be successful? You know the deal. Sometimes you've got 20 people in the field, you have 4 or 5 of them that are intrinsically motivated. They will do a good job no matter what. It's their nature. It's just who they are. They're your best people. They're always going to be your best people. You could cut their salary, they would still be your best people. Then
Mm-hmm.
you've got people who need extrinsic motivation. Bob makes 20 bucks an hour. Bob, if you finish this job ahead of schedule and do it right the first time, I will share with you some of the savings. Bob's like, all right, how much? Now I can start to do some calculus. Am I willing to invest? I'm going to, I have an incentive to invest of myself into trying harder. This is the human psychology of why incentive programs work and sometimes why they don't work. They're not set up right. But incentives programs work when the person on the other side says, I'm willing to invest something, hard work, I'm going to think, I'm going to work as a team, I'm going to communicate better, I'm going to do it right the first time. I'm going to do those things because I'm going to get something from it. Right now, I pay you by the hour. Terrible way to pay people, by the way, right? If you think about what drives success in a project, communication, teamwork, attention to detail, safety, right? Procurement schedules on time, all the stuff that actually drives performance of a construction project. None of those things are time, more time, right? That hurts us actually, right? If I spend more time doing something, it costs me money. But none of that is in the equation on which 4 out of 5 people in our industry get paid. They're paid by the hour.
Mm-hmm.
It's disconnect, huge disconnect. So at our construction company, we started to close that gap by connecting incentives to what they got done under our quality standards. We found that was transformational. And it was one thing to do when we had a few people. As we grew, we needed software to manage our incentive program. And what we developed at Protiv is a simple way. Well, it's not that simple anymore. It's very sophisticated, but we connect project budgets to actual with a quality control step that says if your team in the field can finish jobs ahead of schedule, they can automatically make more money because we're splitting some of the savings out with the team. And the software manages that entire process so that everybody knows what they're going to make. And on their app, they can see what the budget is, what they've used so far, what they have left, and what their projected bonus will be. And once they can see it, it gets in their head.
Mm. I love it, man. Being somebody that rolled out performance-based pay a decade ago,
Yep.
and I understand the Excel spreadsheets and the Google sheets and like
Brutal.
working with the controller and figuring out because how we did it was off we had a fixed percentage of what we wanted labor to be on a job.
Yep.
And anything below anything like we would pay the difference in
Yep.
bonus.
Yeah.
So like don't go over this and we're paying in bonus. And what we found was that jobs consistently stayed under what we wanted our fixed cost of labor to be. But man, did it make an accounting nightmare and did
Yeah.
my controller hate me.
Oh,
Like,
and your chance of actually getting it technically right are really small. Here's a couple of things. I hope there are people out there using Excel spreadsheets to do this because you should probably call us because they're always our best customers because you already get the concept of
yeah,
performance pay. It's the management of it that's hard. So, for example, Bob worked 40 hours and Sam worked 38 hours. They make different wage rates. Who gets how much? And because if you don't get it right, they're going to be standing outside your door because they think it's a different number. So the other part is we found it was important to be transparent. You got to show them the budget and let them see the numbers. If you just tell them, oh, I'm going to pay you some more, if they don't really know what that means. So their behavior won't shift as much as it could. Once they see the number on their phone, they're like, wow, if we finish this on Thursday instead of Friday or Tuesday instead of Thursday, here's how much money I get. All of a sudden they get I don't know if you knew this or not, but they get a new thing they bring to work with them every day that they didn't bring before. I don't know if you knew this, but with every employee that you hire, along with their back, you get a free brain. And all of a sudden, man, these dudes show up with their brain and they're just
Mhm.
like thinking and they're bringing it, right? Because now they're like, wait a second, this is my money now. They don't really care about your money. I hate to tell it to you. Sorry for everybody listening out there, but your workers, it's your money, not really that important to them. But they are somewhat accountable to their peers, and they definitely care about their own money. So we want the labor budget to be their money. So they treat it different. All of a sudden they like care. And I tell you, if you forget to order those framing materials and they show up at the job site, they're there at 7 and there's no materials there, they're pissed at you because you're costing them money. Wow, that bidirectional communication we talked about. You
Yeah.
know, like this is the world which we want to develop where everybody begins to care a little bit more about execution. We found when you layer that process into a company culture that is driven on helping our being people first, communicating well, helping them to succeed at what they want to do. When that is occurring, you get this 1-2 punch that's really powerful.
I love that because the transparency piece is one of the hardest things to provide. I remember we would be guys' pay stubs, like depending on how many jobs they did in the 2 week pay period, like they would literally have 7, 10 sheets of like breakdowns
Yeah,
of all the numbers, and that create, even though we were trying to do the right thing and
sure.
with like all math very rarely was wrong, the complicated nature of it
Yeah,
created this environment where they felt we weren't being transparent,
yeah.
even though we weren't trying to. It just it was
I
very
get it.
complicated, and then we're giving them all the back end details, not the front end. Like they understand how much the job is, what that percentage pull is, what the labor looks like. So they
Yeah,
have a rough idea, but then we're giving them on the back end, like, here's all the mathematically breakdowns and
yeah.
what that looks like and the bonus paid on every job. And it get like, it's just, I love that you build a solution that just makes it
It's
easy.
easy. Yeah. It's easy. I tell people all the time, the software side of this operationally isn't that complex. We integrate into systems like the builder trends and jobbers and Procores of the world and the different time tracking systems. So our data is flowing out of those APIs and integration points. The hard part is the culture part. But when you launch a performance-based compensation system, you need to lean into it. It's not a passive thing. It's a very active programmatic change to your business. You have to talk about numbers far more often. In fact, I tell you, if your estimates are all over the board and you aren't really great at job costing yet, do not start a performance-based system.
Mm.
It can make it worse.
Yeah.
And just because you're now everybody's staring at it. If your procurement's a train wreck and your materials are never there on time, and your permits are all jacked up and people have to stop work, just do not go down the performance pay route yet. You're not ready. You have to have your numbers under control, and performance pay unlocks your team's brain to help you go further because
Mm.
it builds a culture of accountability and teamwork, of performance, of quality, attention to detail that it's hard to replicate when it's not their money.
That 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 is right on point because there's no more than no more of a culture killer is when you roll something out and you haven't built the infrastructure to be able to support that. So now these guys already don't care about your money and you don't even have it set up to where they can make money off the new program that was glorified being rolled out. And that right there it's just a culture killer.
Yeah, we're in fact our entire process we use to onboard customers really evolved the more of these we've done. Almost say this the right way, but we almost don't let people start our program until they've had a chance to just see it in the background a bit. You just need to look at your data. How are you performing now? Does this even make sense to
Mm.
launch? Like, what if you had this in place, what would it have been doing financially? How would the data look like? How are your jobs doing so far? If they're all over the map, you can create chaos. But for companies, I tend to find the companies that are breaking out and growing, two things define almost universally across all trades I've run into so far. And we work with a lot of trades now. For the bigger companies, one, they have great control over their numbers. They're not guessing anymore. They're detailed job costing. They know their numbers. Number two, they're investing into culture. Just there's a consistent pattern of big companies versus small companies around those two elements that I just can't stress enough. There's probably other things, but those two I see consistently.
Mm.
So if companies have their culture down, or at least they want to, they're working towards that. And if they've got a good arm around their numbers, we're a great way to start to build into that full team engagement with how we perform. Who are we as a company? What are our expectations? How do we work as a team? Stuff that allows us to scale and grow.
Awesome, man. I love it. You're a wealth of knowledge when it comes to this. And if my opinion matters, man, you're right on point. Like I've been down
Grateful.
this
Thank
road.
you.
I think you're preaching the right message to the construction industry. So
We're
for
excited for it.
yeah, I'm excited for what you guys are going to be doing here and what the future is because this is a hot topic. You got, a guy, Tommy Malo's been on the podcast before, but he's a big component of performance pay. So there's a lot of questions around it. But I feel a lot more confusion around it than actually good answers for the questions. And what you're talking about, being prepared, being somebody that has done this in the past before this wasn't even a thing. It is complicated and you have to have stuff right because it will shine a magnifying glass on other aspects of your business that are not right.
I see it. I'll give you an example. If you launch a performance-based system and you don't manage inner your conflict issues within your teams, like if you have people who are just butting heads all the time, it makes it worse. The reality is because now we're talking money involved. So Bob and Jim don't like each other and they're butting heads. Right now, it's just because you keep leaving my skill saw, in the wrong part of the truck or whatever. I don't know, stupid crap people argue about. But the reality is the minute that it's about money, your teams need to work together. That's how they're going to make more money. But if Bob is slow, I'm be like, I don't want Bob on my team anymore because he's costing me money now.
Mhm.
You have to be ready for this culture step forward. And I don't say that to scare people off. I'm saying if you want that, if you're like, wow, I want my team to communicate better. I want to get alignment. I want to get rid of my lowest performing team members, frankly, because they drag us down. I want my best team to, love it and help drive forward. You want more communication. You want them to call you when your materials are delayed to being delivered in the field. I can solve that for you. I can make your team call you the second that truck is 1 minute late in the field with whatever's supposed to be delivered. Or if the electrician's still there from the day before and he's supposed to be out of your way, whatever that thing is that they don't care about now, I guarantee you they'll care when it's their money. So that's where we say go and you own that cultural development of performance across the organization. We think it's a great way to build and scale a construction company.
Awesome, man. And for everybody out there listening, if they wanted to connect with you, follow you, learn more
Yeah.
about what you guys are doing, what's the best places to do that?
Obviously, protiv.com, protiv.com is our website. A lot of good stuff there. You email us, either sales@protiv.com or my email address, michael@protiv.com. Happy to reach out. If you're just thinking about it, if you just want to discuss it, talk about it, if you want to buy whatever, I like talking about it. I like talk about what it takes to get ready to get down these roads. So, even if you just want to brainstorm on it a bit, if you're out there doing it already today, happy to give you some advice and thoughts on it. So you want to go down this road and you don't want to use your software, I'll still tell you what I think, best way to do it is. So because I believe in this as an idea, it's a concept that I'm passionate that we should compensate our crews for helping us to perform better, and it should be automatic. And I think that's a winning thing for our industry, the winning thing for our teams in the field. Let us know how we can help.
I absolutely agree. Michael, thank you for taking the time and being on the show today.
Anytime, Ron. We'll do it again soon. Take care, mate.
Awesome. All right, construction champions, another episode in the bag where we started off talking about culture and then went down the road of how to pay your guys. So here's what I love: when people come on here and they have a solution and then they go, hold on, put the brakes on. I want you to be ready for my solution. See, this is why it's so important that's when you're out looking for software, for people to help you with your business, find people that come from the construction industry. There's enough of us out here these days that have been there that can help, because Micro's, I mean, at the end of the day, he's selling a software program. I sell a software program, but we want you to succeed with it. And it was made for the construction industry. So you get on a call with him, he's immediately going to know the red flags of some of the stuff you're going to say and what you should do to prepare yourself. It's not like getting on the phone with a legacy player and all their whole plan is to just close you on a piece of software. These are the thought processes we have to start going through as we're looking for service providers, or we're looking for who we're going to do business with within the construction industry. I'm a big believer in performance pay. I know it's a hot button issue. People are excited about it. Like I said, there's a lot of misconceptions. I would get around Michael. He obviously understands this at such a high level that he developed a solution to help you with it. It's important to make sure everything is right before we start doing something. And when you put money on it, like Michael said, it will magnify everything that is wrong with your business. And you want to try to zero that out as much as you possibly can before you start monetary compensation around it. Because you light the place on fire, and we would not be burning the house down to rebuild it. We'll basically just be burning the house down to burn it down. Can cause people to leave. It can cause cash crunches. It can cause all kinds of problems. So make sure you do stuff right. Like, that's my biggest takeaway from today's episode. Biggest look in the mirror moment is like just looking at, am I doing this stuff right? Like, am I setting up not just my employees, but my company for success? Every time I roll something out or when we implement something, are we checking the boxes that have to be checked before we do it? It's a fantastic question to ask yourself all the time with anything you're doing, whether it's implementing a new software or buying a new truck. Are we checking the boxes that should be checked before that goes out into the field? So, construction champions, make sure you go check out all of our fantastic sponsors. And until next time, be the champion you're meant to be.
Hey everyone! Wondering why you need BuilderComs for your next construction project? Here are 3 solid reasons. First, it keeps your team and clients seamlessly connected in real time. No more delays or communication mishaps. Second, all your critical documents are organized and just a click away. Lastly, accessibility to project photos is immediate and secure. So get BuilderComs now and experience stress-free project management like never before. Get yours now and simplify your construction projects.